All
We
right,
are
and
live.
yes, we are, and nobody's watching, so we get to do whatever we want. Uh,
Perfect.
This is the
and
striptease portion of.
yes, and if you only get here in 1 hour, you missed it. This is my channel, which I have rebranded. I am now Paulo Costa Comics Perspectives.
Look, Comic Crack is here.
You
Comic
found
Crack
us.
is
There
here.
you go.
Yeah, all right.
What's
Here we
going
are.
on?
And of course, we have as usual the world's foremost expert on Godzilla, Wilson Ramos.
Hello.
Mhm. The only guy who still buys Spawn because of the cover price, Jared Osborne.
And the cover price is going up. I'm gonna have to stop buying it now.
And our special guest star, Graf Ekman, lover
our,
of
our
lover of
Harvey
mashups.
Comics man about town.
hmm
Yeah.
And he's here because he loves the character that we're going to show something about later. We're not going to show it now. You have to wait. I'm making you wait. You have to go throughout the whole of the show. Maybe we'll do it during the halftime. But for
We'll
now,
see.
you have to wait. Werewolf by Lunchtime is here, directly from Australia.
Welcome,
All
welcome.
right, all right. So we seem not to have a good lineup of viewers. So what have you guys been up to? Wilson, you were not with us last week.
I was not. I was teaching I was doing a lecture teaching at the School of Visual Arts, a little bit about lettering and answering some questions, giving some quick tips. Basically spending some time just giving back to the community, kind of
who,
a
who,
thing.
who do you know that's the teacher there?
That's Alita Martinez,
Okay.
who's teaching a class on comic book storytelling. I think it's called comic book. It's called producing comics. So she was at the stage where they're going to be lettering soon. So
Okay.
so she goes through like a course where teaching how to basically create a comic from start to finish. I think it's 3 pages is the way they have it set up. So
Right.
I came in to just talk a little bit about lettering comics. So it was a lot of fun. I've done it a few times in her class. This is the second time I actually did it on site. The other 2 times I did it was virtual.
Okay. You zoomed in.
Yep, yep.
And
Let-
what comics did I give away to my class this week? I must have hit the R section in my book. For those of you who don't know, I've got tons and tons of comics, and like a lot of them are back here on shelves and stuff. Like I have shelves everywhere. If I have comics that are in a box in a closet, I may as well not have them, because those are the comics I never, ever, ever look at. So I decided to give some away to my students. They're all art students, so a bunch of them like comics, not all of them, but some of them. So this semester, like every week, I've been dragging comics and trade paperbacks in just to give away. And I must have hit the R section in one of the boxes. Because this week, I gave away comics from 3 decades. I gave away Robotech comics from the 80s. Does anybody here ever read the Comico comics from the 80s, Robotech?
I do
Which
have
was
a bunch of them.
one of the, I think that was like one among the first sort of Japanese influenced comics. And there was a few different series, but I haven't looked at them since the 80s. So I'm like, may as well give these away. And the girl I gave them away to really liked them. She thought they were, because to her, they're really old comics.
Yeah.
To me, they're from the 80s. They're not old.
Yeah, that goes back to the still current interpretation of when did the modern era of comics started, which is 1980. According to some, it's 1986, which doesn't make any sense.
People talk about, they always say modern comics, Spider-Man 300. I'm like, really? That's a modern comic?
Wow.
A lot of years have passed since Spider-Man 300. So I gave away Robotech. Then I gave away Ripclaw.
Ooh.
I had some Ripclaw comics from the early 90s, Image Comics. Yet another one of the Wolverine-inspired Image Comics. I don't remember a thing about him. I had about a dozen of them. I just remember he had claws. Well, his fingers were claws, Ripclaw. And I think he was on
Mark Silvestri used to insist that the guy was a poet, and he would always have an expert of a supposed poem that Ripclaw had written in the start of a Cyberforce comic.
You remember more about Ripclaw than I do, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, I read the first Cyberforce miniseries.
Okay.
And then the issues which were a crossover with Wildcats.
He was on Cyberforce. That's where he's from.
The best Wolverine ripoff character.
I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Here's the thing: I don't really like what I prefer. This is weird because I'm actually a very big fan of the Wildcats. I've always liked the Wildstorm universe.
Wow.
But to me, Ripclaw is better than Warblade, which is the Wolverine ripoff from the Wildcats. I can't remember what was the Rob Liefeld Wolverine ripoff called.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't read that much Liefeld stuff. Though I do have some issues of Brigade buried somewhere. I'll give those away. They're putting out a new remastered Youngblood #1. By the way, it's coming out in a month or so. So for those of you who didn't get enough of Youngblood #1, you can get the new remastered one. Now, let's see the other one.
In your R section, did you get to Ravage 2099?
I do not have any Ravage 2099. The next one I gave away.
We have some viewers who have a special spot in their hearts for Ravage 2099.
Yeah, we have discussed Ravage 2099 on this channel more than I've ever discussed Ravage 2099.
I was just trying to think of our titles, and that came to mind. I didn't mean any disparaging remarks about it.
Yes. In fact, I think we discussed Ravage 2099 more than every other 2099 title combined.
I didn't care for Doom, the Doom one.
Doom was awesome. Doom was my favorite of all.
I enjoyed Doom. I have a piece.
We fall down the 2099 rabbit hole way too often.
I have an unpublished piece of Doom 2099 cover gifted to me by the late Paul Ryan. Never published because they canceled the book.
My name being Graphic Man, I expect Doom to have a lot of rivets and the Doom 29 just was like, I don't know, he was like the Silver Surfer Dr. Doom.
It was the future.
Oh yeah, I get it. But he was too shiny. But
by the way, I was also surprised at how much the two students, both women, loved the early 90s Ripclaw art. Because to them, there's this quaint old style that has these, big boobed women in it.
That's quaint. I don't know.
Yeah, because you don't see that anymore. Like, you don't see that 90s over the top ridiculousness. It doesn't really exist. So they were like, oh, cool. They loved it. Because it's like we lived through it, so we got tired of it in like 1993. But to them, it's quaint old stuff.
It's kind of like us looking at the Golden Age artwork, where it's like,
yeah,
something there, but
headlights comic. We pay extra for those.
Yeah.
And the other one I gave away, let's see, was from the 2000s. It was some of the Dynamite Red Sonja. Ripclaw art in 2025. It's like Archie art in 1985. Yeah, the Red Sonja, I think they were from the 2000s. Some of the Dynamite has done so many issues of Red Sonja. And this was, I think it may have been among the first Dynamite. They had some nice covers. There was like a John Romita cover, an Art Adams cover. And they really did have some nice. They were putting out like 4 different artists per cover, and I just picked the one I wanted. But I was like, I haven't looked at these in 20 years. I may as well pass them on. So got rid of Ripclaw, Red Sonja, and Robotech.
No ROM. You get
No
ROM.
ROM. I got rid of my ROM years and years ago.
You
So
know, regarding Red Sonja, I am still waiting for somebody to do a proper adaptation of The Shadow of the Vulture, which is the Robert E. Howard story.
You're going to be
in which
waiting a long time.
Yeah, but come on, they're doing stuff with Dark Agnes and Sailor Steve Costigan, and nobody wants to do Shadow of the Vulture, which is really cool. It's set in the siege of Vienna, during the siege of Vienna by the Ottomans in the 16th century.
Paolo
Just
said
the idea.
that like anybody knows what that story is.
Just the idea of seeing seeing Renaissance knights battling it out with muskets.
I'm not saying I don't want to
comic.
see it. I'm saying the rest of the world don't care. They want to see the lady in the chainmail bikini.
Mm-hmm.
So what about the Atomic Knights? Was that a little too nowhere near the Renaissance? Riding around on dogs with lances.
No, it's the new Renaissance.
I ever
it's
read
Ultimate
an issue
Renaissance.
of Atomic Knights.
Yeah, the Atomic. I don't even remember in which DC anthology the Atomic Knights appeared.
The only thing I know about Atomic Knights is every once in a while when they'll have a I've watched many DC cartoons, and every once in a while they'll toss in an Atomic Knights reference for the 3 people who actually read the book, but I've never actually seen any of the the Atomic Knights stuff in print. So I have no idea about it. I just know of the name.
Automan 2099 is going to be a new line of couches.
Well, imagine the Sir Galahad with a lance riding
2099.
around on a giant Dalmatian, and that's the Atomic Knights. So
yeah,
was the Dalmatian made giant because of the atomic power?
I say giant because you're not supposed to ride a real.
No, you didn't have to be a giant Dalmatian.
So I'm assuming they're mutants, but
yeah, right. They don't have the back strength to carry weights.
Yeah.
The last thing I gave away was fairly new, and it was from 2022. Does anybody remember the 30th anniversary Image Comics anthology? Probably already is.
Red Sonja 2099 with an intelligent armor chainmail bikini.
In 2022, Image put, I think it was 12 issues, an anthology book. They were all like square bound, 48 page. And had some nice covers on it too. I noticed as I was looking through them. But overall, it's another thing. I like anthology books, but there wasn't anything in there that I'm ever going to read again. And that's a good book to give away to students because they get a wide variety of artistic styles to look at. So I gave that one away too. So I gave away 4 decades, 80s, 90s, aughts, in the 2020s. It was 4 decades worth of stuff this week.
Well, that's good for When I was a kid, there were still a few magazines that were republishing old newspaper strips, the Phantom, Rip Kirby, from all over the place. Stuff that was leftovers from the newspapers, and some guy who published magazines just got the files and would reprint them. And that was it.
Do you still get Phantom?
No.
Okay.
No, unfortunately, no. But I can read the Phantom online because it's free. It's free up to 8 days before. So I usually read the dailies on Saturday and the Sunday on Sunday. That's what's available free. But I'm not saving any of it. But that was good because it allowed us to, at a time that we were getting all of the Brazilian comics with Marvel and DC. It allowed us to have a glimpse into a bunch of different comics from different eras. And I don't know how easy that is nowadays for these new kids, because we're on the internet. We can read anything from any time. But how do we tell the new people about the things that existed before? And in a way that'll get them interested.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Timey-wimey-limey. I don't like anthology books in principle, but my favorite comic book of all time is Warrior.
A lot of people don't like anthologies on principle. Those of us who do like anthology, in order to like anthologies, you have to accept the fact that you're not going to like the whole anthology.
Yes,
but
and you haven't read heavy metal until you've experienced it in its original French.
But for me, like that Image Comics anthology had a lower hit rate than normal. If I think an anthology is good if I like 3/4 of it. To me, that's a good anthology. If I like 3/4 of the stories, that's good. I understand why people, like said, don't like them on principle, because they don't want to not like a quarter of the comic that they just paid money for. I understand that 100%. But I think Image Anthology for me had a hit rate closer to 1/3, where I only liked 1/3 of it. That's why I wasn't particularly fond. I bought the whole thing because I put it on my pull list and was keep on hoping. And it had a lot of talented people doing it. It just didn't resonate with me.
Heavy metal. Metal Hurlant.
Metal Hurlant.
Yes, you should. And besides, there's a bunch of people on the internet wearing Metal Hurlant 50th anniversary T-shirts now. I don't know how.
I've been enjoying the new Penthouse comic anthology.
The Marvel anthology that Alex Ross headed up a couple of years ago was great. That was called I forgot. Open Space.
Open Space? I don't remember that one, but
no, wait, that was not it. There was no. It was called Marvel. Alex Ross. There was an anthology that Marvel had in the 1990s called Open Space. Alex Ross was supposed to have a story in it, but it wasn't published, and Wizard published it as an extra in their as an extra magazine in an issue about the year 2000.
It was also called Marvel.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, this is called Marvel. Yeah,
which is called Marvel, and the artwork that was used was at Marvel, was not credited to Alex Ross. So that's why no one knew what it was. I actually found the artwork, shopped it around to people to find out who it was, and we eventually found out it was Alex Ross's, who he thought was the artwork was lost forever as well. So I was able to return that back to him during the time he was doing Marvels, and because Marvels was so
Open Space.
Open Space was it was issue 6, I believe, of Open Space that never saw print, because that was the anthology book was called Open Space. It was part of that, and I think it was for issue 6 or something like that.
Yeah.
And Alex had done the artwork. It was obviously an early Marvel thing, but it just happened we found it just after I think Marvel's printed, so it was still the whole vibe of Alex Ross, the big name, and so Wizard was able to print it because they were willing to go ahead and print it. Marvel looked at it and was like, they're not going to print it.
Yeah.
And for those of you who don't know, at the time, Wilson was in charge of art returns at Marvel. So that's what he means by he discovered it. He was looking around the art returns office, and here were these pages that nobody knew who did them.
Yeah, because we had cabinets of artwork that just went back decades that was either not filed correctly or just people didn't know who they were, just because sometimes there would just be 1 or 2 pieces of artwork. But because I was reading comics 12 years prior, I was able to at least figure out, this had to come from this particular book, and then go from there and eventually return a lot of that stuff. And there's still stuff that's, I'm assuming, still there. Who knows where it is now? If Ike didn't sell it all, it was artwork that that never got returned, that I saw and wish I could find it again, because I had seen and found early artwork for Art Adams, his very first project that never saw print. Um, we didn't even know it was his until like later on when I read an article where he talked about the artwork he never got back. It's like, oh, I've seen that. I've seen the artwork, but not too sure exactly where it got put because it was one of those things where it's like no one could identify it, so it got put back into the rotation of we'll eventually get to it kind of a thing. And Jeff wanted to publish it. Jeff Sutter, who was the reprint manager, he was doing a Art Adams type book, and he wanted to print that, and we just couldn't find the artwork. Fortunately, so.
Tammy Whammy Lime says 2000 AD, of course, awesome, fun, great memories. The thing about 2000 AD is it's one of those anthologies where you risk not liking over half of the magazine if your favorite strips are not in that particular issue, because they rotate. Where they do a story, and that particular chapter ends, and then they wait until they come up with a new story. So you risk getting four different features that you don't like. Well, I really do love me some anthologies.
Yep.
Well,
I'm an anthology
I don't like
fan too.
No, wait. I don't like anthology books in principle. Boy, I do love me some anthologies. Those are your principles, and if we don't like it, you have others. That Marvel anthology was great. Comic Crack says, which means it's good because if Comic Crack was willing to read a modern Marvel title, it was good. Tammy Wimey Lamy, Epic Illustrated was pretty good too. Epic Illustrated,
I always like Epic.
Mm-hmm. 62 Lefty Blues is here as well. Hello, 62 Lefty
Hello.
Blues. I am nothing if
Good
not
evening.
consistent.
Nothing is not consistent. I should start us off with the biggest comic of the week.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean that literally. I got this because of the novelty. I just thought it was so cool. And it's Batman Hush. So this is Batman 158. As you know, I never buy Batman. So it's printed at 11 by 17. Giant size. And how cool is it that I have a piece of 11 by 17 Mylar to put it in, making it even cooler. But
is it just me, or is your internet connection slow? It looks like it is slow.
Yeah,
this was like the big.
Yep.
I have no idea. Yeah, I just froze right there. Take me off. I think you can. Where'd everybody go?
Yeah, you.
I wonder if that's something to do on your channel.
The internet did not like that Batman book, I think.
Not at all.
Uh-huh. It's probably the Jim Lee art.
The Jim Lee art looked like it's got some Neil Adams influence in it. This issue, it's kind of interesting, but the story left me cold.
It made you hush.
It made me hush. You know why?
It started still.
Did anybody read the last Batman? I think I read was The Court of Owls. Do you remember that one? That was like the Batman #1 during the New 52. That one started with Batman. The Court of Owls started with Batman swinging through Gotham, and somebody cut his bat line. No, normally when that happens to Batman, he just throws another bat line out and goes on his way. This time, in that first issue, he fell nearly to his death. Except I think it was like Batgirl came by and saved him. This issue starts out with the dumbest thing you've ever seen. The Joker is dumping Joker fish into the reservoir. Batman's going, no, but why does the Joker do this? He doesn't repeat stuff. So there's two bad guys, dumping the Joker fish. Batman beats them up. Then what's the first thing he does? He turns his back to the open truck and looks into the water. And the Joker hits him in the back with a crowbar and knocks him in the water and nearly kills him, except this time it's Talia al Ghul happens to be flying by in her helicopter and saves Batman. And I'm like, Joker with a crowbar can take out Batman? And also he now has all sorts of, like, when you pull Batman's mask out and gas comes out at you, or some electrical charge when you try to pull off Batman's mask. Well, since he was in the water, it nearly killed him, the electrical charge. And it killed all the Joker fish too. But then it just went goofier from there. It was just like Joker just hits him from behind with the guy who can beat Superman or anyone else if he has enough time prepared doesn't know to check the truck.
Yeah.
Well, the crowbar was very effective when he killed Robin. So
there you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Lefty says, I looked at the big version. The artwork was flat. Wasn't any better shrunken down either.
Oh, it's better than shrunken down.
Yeah.
I mean,
here's less Avenger 85. Yeah. How are you doing, man? Joker took out Jason Todd with a crowbar. Yeah, but Batman is supposed to have protection in his cowl. He's not supposed to be.
It was just so dumb that the best strategist in superhero-dom just turns his back on an open truck. Like, check the truck. Don't stand in front of it and look down into the water. Hope there's no one behind me. And then there was the rest of the story went on, and it was a Hush forced Batman to save the Joker's life. All right, whatever. Whatever. Hush is back, and he's up to everybody has to trick Batman too. It's like everybody's the Riddler.
Yeah, it just the way you describe it to me, it sounds like the writer had an idea. I don't know how to start it, but I got some good stuff inside. But the beginning, we'll get there somehow.
Yep.
That's what it sounds like to me. It's like, who did write it anyway?
Knocking things over. It was the same one who wrote Hush 1.
Jeff Loeb.
I need an Ethernet cable port.
Need to do something about that.
Yeah, we only got about a quarter of anything you said. Was it Jeff Loeb?
Yeah, it was Jeff Loeb.
Okay. So I'm curious if it was just basically, all right, let's replace Riddler with Joker, and then Batgirl with Ra's al Ghul, and we'll start from there.
Yeah. Especially because DC have been trying to relive their greatest hits. There was a new Halloween miniseries last year. And they can't do anything with the Justice League without Darkseid. So I think DC does have a good comic right now, and it's Ram V's New Gods. Jared, are you functional?
I am. I'm trying to that doesn't even.
All right, restarting. See, Micah, I invited you here, and look how amateurish we all are. It's all the internet. It doesn't look very much better, Jared.
I think he's illustrating how Batman Hush looked flat and lifeless.
Not yet. Because Macs no longer have Ethernet ports on them.
What do I keep telling users of Apple products? Oh yeah, stop it.
Via
I can't work anything else. I tried it. I'm such a caveman when it comes to any other computer that I get so frustrated. I'm just ready to just start smashing keys and slinging dung because it's just left click, right click just bugs the crap out of me.
I remember when I was forced to work with an iMac, we had a paper clip tied to the iMac so we could reboot it, which we had to do about a dozen times a day. And the iMac was the only computer with internet, so we had to take turns using the internet. This was in the year 2002 up to 2002.
Yeah,
I understand that. I had worked for a short time for an advertising company, and I had to use their equipment, and they worked in different shifts. So one shift would go, and then you basically you sat down and used their computers. But if I got there too early, there was a computer. It's like, well, you could use this one, but you should save every 5 minutes because it occasionally just shuts itself off.
Mm.
And it's like, oh, that's not good at all. But it's like, or you could bring in your own computer. It's like I don't have one to bring in. I'll just work on this one. And I did get into the habit of every few minutes just saving because this thing was going to shut off. It wasn't if it was going to shut off, it was just when it was going to shut off.
The Apple PC debate. There's no Windows 95. No, Windows 95 was Windows 3.11 on a CD-ROM, just as an excuse to make you buy CD-ROMs. No Apple, no Shattered Comic, no Revolutionary Comics Communications. I'm not entirely sure that's true. Where did I see a discussion the other day about Iron Man Crash, which was the one that was done by the Shattered guy, Mike Sainz, and the story is not very good, and it isn't. Hey, there's a great legend. How are you?
Welcome. I don't remember. I mean, I bought Iron Man Crash. I don't remember it at all. I wasn't impressed with it.
Yeah,
I was not impressed with it.
Yeah, it's not very good. And somebody was making a comparison to Batman Digital Justice, which was the one that was done by Pepe Moreno.
Right.
Which is good because it was written by Archie Goodwin, not because it has computer art.
I switched over to my other wireless network, but it won't hook me up via Ethernet at all. Oh well.
Well, you seem to be working now.
I'm back. Who knows?
So let's talk about zombie cats. Do you have zombie cats?
Zombie cats? I do. That's Beryl.
Yes.
Issue number 11. Brand new story arc. New readers start here. And this is the one where the one artist draws the cats and the other artist draws the backgrounds. And it's
so
really
it's just like a Disney
well
movie.
done. Yes. It's like this issue was particularly harrowing too. Because at the end of last issue, they were in a car crash. So this issue is all them trying to get out of the car crash while rabid animals all try to kill them. So it's a lot of fun. And a grizzly bear shows up, a rabid grizzly bear. So
That's
the
awesome. Does
zombie
the cat?
aspect is the zombie aspect is of course rabies.
But the grizzly bear gives you that element of a bigger monster compared to the
Yes.
regular
Yes.
rabbit animals. That's a great concept. I really enjoy
Yeah.
that.
It's been a really good. Who does it? Tony Fleece, FEFLEECS is the writer. He's also an artist, but he's not drawing this one. And Trish Forrester and Tone Rodriguez are the artists. I think someone told us that Trish Forrester is drawing the cats, and Tone Rodriguez is drawing everything else. And Brad Simpson is the colorist. So this has been a good book, and it's on. They even mentioned they got a while to keep going in this story. Yeah, welcome back. It's our or if it's your first time here, welcome to the kickoff of Feral Year 2. We're still very early in the story, so I guess they want it to last a whole bunch of issues, but it's been a good comic so far.
I
From
would
the
think they'd have
creators
to have
of what was that other one they created?
they'd have to have a lot of collaboration of or layout sessions where, okay, I'm going to have the cat looking in this direction, and they must go back and forth all the time, I would say.
Yeah, I would guess so.
Well,
Stray Dogs is the one. I'm going to put them on the map.
Well, in Europe, the Michel Vaillant guys do the same thing because you need a lot of work for the detail you put in the racing cars. So the regular artist just draws a blob where the car's supposed to go, and the other guy comes in and puts in all the details of how the car looks like. So it can be done. It doesn't actually require that much effort, provided that you know where you're going to put the cats. The layout artist can just say cat goes here, and the cat artist can just do the whole job of the cat's expression and the positioning.
Well, nowadays with cloud work, you could probably work on the page almost at the same time. Working over the cloud. But yeah, I've been enjoying Feral since it first came. Like their first one that put them on the map was Stray Dogs, which was that one was about like a dog who was sort of taken by this weird guy, and he was trying to figure out what was going on, and he was living in a house with living in this house that all these other dogs, and like all the dogs' long-term memory wasn't good, so some of them had been there for a year or two, but didn't really remember. They're like remembered their old master, that story was really good. Eventually, they discover that the guy who got them is a serial killer, and they're the trophy. So he would kill someone and take their dog. And so this is about all the dogs that are living in a serial killer's house. And it goes on from them, but really good. It was like, you get the trade paperback of it, Stray Dogs. It was like 5 issues or so. And this is one of their continuing ones. So I think this one is Image. The Stray Dogs was Boom. So maybe, I don't know what Boom's creator ownership is. Sometimes like Boom owns everything. Sometimes they don't. So it could have been that, they did Stray Dogs and we're like, we're out of here. We want some creator ownership. I'm not 100% sure.
Did you get any of the Image number ones this week?
I did. 1, 2, 3. These aren't Image, but 4, 5. Actually, 4. The other 2 are one shots. I think they're number ones, but they're done in ones. Oh, forgot about this one too. I got so many number ones this week. It's the 2 number ones that I got because of the creators that I knew were what are their names? Tyler Boss and Matthew Rosenberg both do a book called What's the Furthest Place from Here.
Mhm.
I've enjoyed that, but that one's still running. But then they each came out with a new one. Of them is I even forget which one's the artist. I don't know if Tyler Boss or Matthew Rosenberg is the artist, but they're both writing this and someone else is drawing it. But and once again, they're like, What's the Furthest Place from Here? They both have long named titles. It's You'll Do Bad Things and We're Taking Everyone Down With Us. Now, let me see which one was which. let's look. We're taking everyone down with us. This must be the guy who's the artist, Matthew Rose, because this looks like his layouts, even though it's not.
Rosenberg's usually a writer at Marvel.
Yeah, I think so. They did another book together that put them on the map called, like, 4 kids walk into a bank or something like that. But this is drawn by Stefano Landini. No, he's doing the colors. No, he is. They have the credits all weird. The artist Stefano Landini. The colors are Roman Titov and Jason Wordy, and the letters are Hassan Atsmain El How. Oh, and this is the one that's weird in that it's kind of like it says here. See how it says up there? A Rook spy thriller. I think he did another book called Rook, which is not the Rook, I don't think, from the 80s, which was a black and white magazine. But he's a James Bond type. So the main story about this one is there's a girl, a teenage girl, and her father living on this island. And she must only be 13, teenage girl. And she runs across this guy chained up. So her father turns out to be some sort of James Bond villain. And he's hiding out from who he thinks are the villains, who are, James Bond and whoever he's working for. So he's hiding out from them. And this one was pretty good. I enjoyed this one. I think I liked this one better than You'll Do Bad Things. This was the other one, right? By Tyler Boss. What was this one again? Oh, this one was some nice artwork. Who's doing this? Adriano Tortolisi. Lettering by Hassan Atsmain El How again. Crime comic. But I think this one took a while to get going. What was the plot? I don't even remember the plot in this one. It was just kind of, how did it end? I don't even remember. This one just had a sort of normal criminal plot going on. I can't even remember what the main plot was. Boy, I'm looking through it going, I recognize the artwork, but there was a magician and a mother and father and a kid who liked magic.
Is that going is it going with 2 main colors in every page?
Yeah. And I think it was just, it was, if I remember right, this one was just a little generic to me. It wasn't bad, but it really didn't start. It was like a first issue that was good, but didn't grab me. Then so I might give both of these another issue, see how they do. Because like I said, usually when I get my email for final order cutoff, that's when I decide I'll try another issue, or I'll put it on my pull list, or I don't, want it. What was the other one? I think this was the one I decided I didn't want to get. This is Far Down Below. I think this, out of the 3 of these, was the one I liked least, and it was still okay. This was a Mad Cave comic. Who did this one? Chris Condon is the writer. Gigi Xiao is the artist. Nathan Kempf You're going to have to tell me how to pronounce this name, Paolo.
Let me check. It's probably Gigi.
Gege?
Yeah.
Okay. This one was okay. In the beginning, we have people who have like a giant drill ship that go down and say, "We discovered the hollow earth." And then a bunch of monsters overtook them. And that took place in like 20, what year was this? 1865 that took place. And then we flash forward to 1983, kids living in the house, and they eventually go
Frozen.
underground and discover, I guess, who knows? They discover the kids discover the, and it was just really, it was really too much of a kids comic for me. It was okay, but nothing great.
All right.
I won't order a second issue of this one.
Mm-hmm. Also, Mike, I don't know if you noticed, but the real reason Jared actually buys some of these books is because they have these gigantic titles. And he does that with a lot of series. And the titles take up the whole of the cover.
It just seems that's the style of indie books these days.
Yeah, it happens a lot.
And I'm an indie book guy. So it's like long titles.
What's
And the
funny
other
is
first issue from Image isn't really a first issue.
Hmm.
Bitter Root is back.
All right.
Nice sort of op art cover. This is the one that's by Stanford Green draws it. Matthew Herms colors it. David F. Walker, Chuck Brown, and Sanford Green are listed as the creators. This actually reminded me a little bit in the art and the storytelling of early 90s sort of giant figure pinup storytelling, though not quite drawn like anything.
No, because they
In the
look
early
they look more like pop art movie posters in those pages.
They do. That's sort of the drawing style, but the storytelling style. And it took me years to figure this out. It wasn't until
Jared, yeah, you're freezing again. You're freezing a lot again.
yes, yeah, I get a freezing symbol. So,
Okay. Hi, Kyle. How you doing?
They're giving me a freezing symbol.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, Wilson. You were saying something before Jared took out the bitter root.
Yeah, I was just going to say that the long titles are not only happening in comic books, but it's been happening in anime as well. Now, I noticed it in manga because one of the books I lettered years ago was called "I Hate You More Than Anyone Else in This World." Was like the title of the book. And then there are some animes now that have long titles. I can't think of one off the top of my head right now, but it was something my brother has noticed and showed me. It's like, look at the name of this book. Look at the name of this anime, and one of them is basically there's a new anime trope that's going along where a person will die and just wake up in another universe altogether and have an adventure. I forget that particular style. For a while, it meant that the character got hit by a truck. It was always some truck hitting the person, and the person wakes up thinking they died, and no, they're now in another universe having a whole new different adventure. So there's one that we're watching that's basically the equivalent of the Red Power Ranger getting killed in his Power Ranger universe and then waking up in a fantasy world. He still has all his powers and stuff like that. And the title of the anime is something to the effect of the Red Ranger's adventures continue in this fantasy land type of thing, where there's just all these long long text covers or long text titles, which is interesting that that's going on now. Almost to go, we don't have a title for this book, so we'll just tell you what it is right in the title. That
I'll
man
give
gets
you a
bitten by
description.
man gets bitten by spider, becomes Spider-Man. Is pretty much it would be as a Marvel equivalent.
But Bitterroot is interesting because they Bitterroot is a series before this that I jumped onto like halfway because I heard it was good, and it was pretty good. And the first series took place during the Harlem Renaissance, so it was the 20s, I think it was. And it's a mostly black cast who fight these monsters. I forget what they're called. And they mostly did it in secret. And they're, of course, fighting racism the same time they're fighting monsters because it's the 20s. But that one sort of climaxed with the monsters taking over a lot of the world and then eventually beating them back. I forget what the monsters were called.
Freezing a lot again.
So and it takes disappearing. Yeah, it gave me the everybody disappears. I can tell I'm freezing because everybody disappears. This one takes place in the 60s, and once it's still Harlem, but at least that's where their headquarters is, because they have to go. Some freedom riders just got took by monsters in the South somewhere.
And again.
The world knows about the monsters. Maybe I should reboot my whole
Setup. Yeah, maybe.
Let me try that. I'm gonna fade out. I'll catch you guys in a few minutes.
Mm-hmm. Micah, do you have any of your special pulps near you?
No, the pulps are in another location. I mean, I got some Gabby Hayes, but I don't think your crowd is.
No, I just thought it would be cool if it would be cool if you could show them, because you could tell how you create these new packages for classic pulps.
Yeah, they are really tucked away. But if you want, I can go grab some. But it would take about 4 or 5 minutes. But
no, you can just tell. Thank God, thank God that asshole's gone. Kyle says, I'm grooving on your thumbnail with Little Lotta. Most of that series was drawn by Sid Cauchy, an artist I got familiar with around 2001. He sent me some signed comics about then. That's cool. See if you can break.
Video you could show of, unless you're holding on to that. But
it's Jared that has the Lotta cover. So
no, I mean the one I sent you.
Okay, yeah, we can do that. Well, since because Micah here does a lot of graphic design at home, and oops, no, not like
we can talk over it because there's no audio file attached to it, so it won't mute us. So, but basically, all the guys I know have this poster of Vampirella, and I thought, wouldn't it be great if I could just spoof that and turn it into Vampirlotta? And then I thought, what would be kind of a comic magazine for Harvey if Harvey were in existence now? And I gave her some little ghost that snacked on food too. So I was just daring some of my good friends that were what we call good girl art fans, like Jambo, to see if he would even notice something like this. So anyway, so that's kind of the weird stuff I do. I guess
Very
this
cool.
is just going to loop. But
yeah.
And when I set up and sold all my posters, no one bought Vampire Lotta for some reason. I couldn't believe it.
Well, it does strain the eye a little bit too much because it's not something they really don't actually mesh well together.
No.
No, it's a fun joke for the internet, but I'm not. If you have something real with it, people are going to find it a little odd.
I'm pretty sure I had that original Vampirella poster hanging up in my room. Actually, now that I think about it, back in the 90s, there was what I had was so Harris Publishing had a Vampirella woman who would come to the conventions. And since I was doing a lot of conventions back then, you get to know these people, meet these people, become like friends at least for the weekend with these people because you're usually maybe the next booth over. So I was doing conventions with Marvel, so we would be, I think, not too far away from the Harris booth. So we got to talk to those guys, and like I mentioned before, the comic industry, especially people who work in it, it's tiny. So we all kind of know each other, and when we're at cons, we're all staying at the same hotels and what have you. So we end up going to dinner together all the time. So with the Vampirella, they had reprinted that image, but what they did is they used that model that would come to the shows, who would be at the booth as Vampirella. They remade that image, but with this live action person. And that's what I had hanging up, which she basically looked like Vampirella, did the same pose. They threw up the logo on it. I don't recall if they used a fake bat or if they used, if they had one there or they just took it from the illustration, but they basically recreated that poster. So that's what I had hanging up on my wall in the 90s because she had signed it and everything. Unfortunately, I don't have it. It was like one of those posters that went up and then came down and never saw it again.
Are you married?
No, I am not.
Okay, because usually when a guy gets married, he has to, make a decision to get rid of that poster.
Yeah, if I was married, I wouldn't have a Godzilla collection in the middle of my living room and all these other toys in the background.
In the meantime, Cal suggests you do a little dot Lady Death mashup called Lady Dot.
Is she the albino white hair?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, boobs even bigger than Vampirella's.
All right. Yeah.
That's going to be a little bit hard to pull off as well, I think. Because the whole thing about Lady Death is that she is that albino figure of death, and with a little dot, you have to show the dress with all the dots. So
I do have this handy. I don't know if your viewers are familiar with the movie Amazing Colossal Man. I thought, well, I'll just turn that into the 1960s Giant Man, and he's got a woman in his hands, and then I thought I'll just make her the Wasp from the 1960s. So that's the type of stuff I do.
That's very good. It works well. And I recognize that poster too.
Yeah. He's got like a weird diaper or whatever they wrapped a tent around him, I guess, because he's so big.
Yeah.
Gal says he's thinking of Harvey mashups with Bad Girls now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he liked your poster.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, since you haven't been a regular lately, so there's a possibility that if somebody finds your channel now, they may not be familiar with all of the stuff that you've produced over the years. So maybe one of these days you can show off all the posters that you did again on your videos.
Well, yeah, give me a minute and I'll grab a few things. So.
Well, sure. Wilson,
So
did you pick up anything this week?
I did get a new action figure that my
Mhm.
brother got for me. He surprised me with it because it wasn't one I was planning to get myself. So I got a Wolverine Marvel Legends Wolverine figure. This
Mhm.
is part of a build a figure line to make Marvel's Nemesis character. And so those are the characters that are part of the line. Now I myself want to get Cyclops, Marrow, and Husk because I want Husk so I can make the Gen X team, and that particular Cyclops so I can make the X Force team. So this Wolverine is Ultimate Wolverine, and I had no desire to pick him up because I wasn't going to make the Ultimate X-Men team. But my brother picked it up and it's like, oh, I thought you would like it, so he picked it up. So it's like, hey, free toy. I'll take it. So this is the new figure that I got for the week, and I'll probably do an unboxing of him on my regular Tonight YouTube channel. So not YouTube, sorry, TikTok is where I do some of the unboxing. So that's the new action figure that I got this week, and then last week in the mail I got MJ from the Spider-Man No Way Home. So the live
Mhm.
action character who comes with the box that Doctor Strange keeps the spell in. I guess is what they called is what they used it for. It was the MacGuffin of the show for a little for that movie for a little while. So a couple of new characters in that way, and also I discovered from Super Seven. I have this Godzilla figure that is basically like the Shogun Warrior figures from back
Mhm.
in the day. And I never had the figure as a kid. My neighbor did, but they recreated this in 3.75 scale. And it was something that I did on my TikTok show, and I did an unboxing of it. And what I thought was neat and completely silly is that this character can hold items from like Star Wars figures. So I was playing around with it because it's a toy. You're supposed to play with it. So it could hold some Star Wars accessories, and I thought that was kind of completely silly and kind of neat. And it's like I almost went to the point of, you know, I bet you I could probably design a robe for it to make him a Jedi, but I didn't go that way because I had way too much work to get completed. So it was like something that I took 5 minutes to literally play around with, take some pictures, and I'm really liking the Super 7 figures because of that scale. The 3.75 does not take as much real estate as like the regular Godzilla toys because in some cases the tail itself takes the whole shelf space, so you can only get so many figures on the shelf. So it's like these smaller ones are cool, and the thing is like, if I start getting these, I'm going to want to get them all, and there's just way too many of them as it is. So again, is one of those things like, is that another collection that I really want to get into?
Kyle picked up the first Giant Man Tales to Astonish number 49.
Ah,
Oh,
I
nice.
think that at this stage, out of all the Marvel Silver Age launches, the Henry Pym stuff might be the cheapest one to get, at least until the Hulk joins as a co-star. Absolute Martian Manhunter number one came out this weekend. Might be the most interesting thing DC has put out recently from an art POV. Well, yeah, it kind of looks like early Vertigo when they still didn't know exactly how crazy they want it to be.
there's a giant size preview page of it in here too, so you can see
Oh,
the Martian Manhunter art really big if you want to.
what did you think of the classic '90s TV movie of Generation X?
My only memory of it was, it wasn't that bad, but beyond that, I have no memory of it.
My memory of it was Marvel took us out to go to a theater in, I think, the Viacom building, to get a private showing of Gen X, and it was amazing to sit there and watch it. And I was an intern. So I'm like, oh man, this is wild that I'm getting to go do this. And I sat there and out loud, I was like, this is worse than the Fantastic Four. In a quiet theater with just Marvel staff. And I'm so happy that everyone just started laughing. It was like, okay, good. I'm not going to get in trouble. Because that was like my first 3 months or so at Marvel as an intern. And I said that, it's like, oh man, I'm going to get in trouble. But I couldn't hold it in. It was just like, this is so bad. That's the only memory I have of it. I don't have like clear memory of actually watching it. So I couldn't even tell you what the story was. You know, I know
I
it
saw it on
wasn't good,
TV,
but
so I
that
don't
was
know.
it. I watched it and it was like I erased it from my memory because I never went back to it. I never even attempted to watch it again. I think even when it did come out on TV, it was like the one time was enough. And I like the Gen X characters.
Was the guy who played Banshee actually Irish?
I couldn't tell you.
remember.
I couldn't even tell. I couldn't even tell you who was in it.
No, I
You know
have
which
no idea.
characters were in it.
Because they could have gone for Call Meany and they didn't. So, of course, Call Meany was the only Irish guy in American TV at the time.
Right, and he was busy on Star Trek, and then, you know, at that time he was still on Star Trek. I don't think he went over to Deep Space Nine yet.
Yeah, Tit Gollins told you to lick Godzilla's tongue out.
Is that his atomic fire?
That is his atomic fire. So the original toy had it. Let's see if this focuses. So it has a flame drawn on it or painted on it, and that's the flicking tongue. So the original toy did that too, and the toy would have like the hand moves, it goes around, but it doesn't pop out. But the original toy used to shoot out like the other Shogun Warriors. The problem is that was usually the very first part of the action figure somebody would lose.
Yeah.
And to get the original size one, which I think I want to say was 18 inches tall, so just under 2 feet tall. It was a great toy, but it would the tongue would eventually stop working.
Mm-hmm.
You would lose the hand. You would lose the tail, and the feet would usually be on it because sometimes you could find the parts. And the original toys had wheels on the bottom of the feet. All the Shogun Warriors did, and I had once went looking for it to see if I could, you know, buy one on eBay, and a broken one was going for way too much money. So
Yeah.
it was like I was not going to spend, you know, $500 on a memory of a toy that I never owned. So it was like I'm not going to spend that kind of money. So that's why I was happy to pay like $25 for this.
Okay, Comic Crack says the Martian Manhunter artist is the same guy that did the Zatanna book recently. But I think he's crazier in Martian Manhunter than he was in Zatanna, right? Kyle says Matt Frewer in that Smoking Emma. Oh yeah,
Silver Knight is a big fan of Gen X TV.
He likes the movie. Yeah. Worth it just for Finola Hughes. Who did Finola Hughes? Who's Finola Hughes? Max Headroom Gen X. Last Avenger says Banshee wasn't even Irish in X-Men First Class, which annoyed me.
Yeah.
Huh. Oh, that's ridiculous. Why wasn't he? The whole point of Banshee is that he's Irish. Why else would he be called Banshee?
Yeah.
Why was Wolverine Australian in the first X-Men cartoon?
Yeah.
Because they wanted him to have an accent, and the Canadian accent is not noticeable enough. Of course, Wolverine. You do have Wolverines in Canada, not in Australia. I mean, if he was called the Wombat or something,
then it would have worked.
Yeah.
Maybe I should show off this little Lotta before my internet goes down completely.
All right.
Harvey Comics is out to get us. They don't want us to show this.
Exactly.
Wilson doesn't even know.
Yeah, because you weren't here
Oh,
last week. Because Jared
right.
showed showed the negatives for the cover, which he had bought. How much did it cost you?
$50 all in. But
Hmm.
get me off so low, and I'll tell the story first, and then I'll show last week, which was well, it starts with Wilson has seen this bunny.
Right.
Mhm.
This is a bunny cover that I bought the production negatives for. And the production negatives, Graphic Man, do you know what the old production negatives? Have you ever seen them before?
No, not really.
From old, where's Bunny? They're this. This is what they used to use to make the printing plates. And I found these, I think I got these ones in 2023. And they're in black and white. So that's the blue plate of this bunny cover. And then there's four of them. There's the magenta, cyan, black, and yellow. There's the black plate for the bunny cover.
Mhm.
And there we go. It's a negative. But this is what they used to make the printing plates. And if you ever look these up, if you ever look up comic book production art on eBay, you can find stuff like this. You can find like stats of the old black line and stuff. But this is usually like, even though this cost me $50, that's on the low is what to do with this. And it doesn't look too good just stuck in a frame. But if you get, like a positive black plate, it looks good. So that's what I
Do those have little bullseyes with the crosshairs
like about.
so you can
Yep.
you can line up with the other? Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Whoops. Yeah, I guess we better
Yeah.
do that a little bit later. Mike, how
Yep.
did your trip to the attic go?
Oh, good. You wanted pulps, right?
That's
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I collect a lot of pulps, but it's kind of a bizarre hobby, and you spend $50 on something that's going to fall apart in your hands. So I thought, well, maybe I can just find some, representation of them on the internet and start making my own. So what I would do is I would find the written part on the website Internet Database. I would print that off back to back, and then I would find the best cover I could find on online. And then if it had like scratches and wrinkles or creases, I would use my graphic skills to smooth them out and make my own cover. And I'd figure out what the back cover looked like and the spine, and then I would have this printed, and I would glue it myself with a little bit of weight on top of it. And in about 2 hours, I have my own reproduction pulp. This one I'm not going to spend $200 on. I'm just going to, for about $10 to $15, I have a reading copy of it. And so I made the most of them with the amazing stories. And I did about 103 of these. The hardest part is finding a good scan of what the back cover was, and then whatever scan you find, the copy they have's got wrinkles, and so I have to go in there and I have to digitize it and make it as clean as I can. So no, I haven't read them all yet because like I said, I've made too many of them. But I like the old pulp artwork, and I think it doesn't get enough credit. And so, and I'm fascinated by the prices they could pay for insurance back, in 1940. I could have the whole family covered for, so. Anyway, sometimes the art was pretty wild. This one was like a real true story of raining fish one day in a little Dutch town. But that's what I do. I'll show us a couple more books. But so I thought, why spend the money when you can just make your own? And the insides are free at the Internet Comic Database. Sometimes the interior artwork's pretty cool.
Besides,
And
a lot of those are probably in the public domain by now.
yeah, well, yeah, I'm not selling, so I'm not gonna get the FBI's not gonna. So I'm an Edgar Rice Burroughs fan, and for sometimes you get fortunate, you find some old Edgar Rice Burroughs book that has a cover that's ripped off, and so it's a pretty good hardback. But I figure out what did the cover look like, and I find the best image of it, and I make my own. Except instead of a picture of Edgar Rice Burroughs, and a little bio about the author, I would find what did the paperback art look like, and I would make my own back cover. So that's Roy Crinkle artwork, and I thought that was just awesome. So that's a little stuff I do. So these are like old Tarzan books you'd find anywhere. So you might spend $20 for the book, but I'm going to make a cover that looks like the original cover. Except I also like the 1950s reprint cover. And I thought I'll just put that on the back cover. Now, all my Tarzan books, I have red lettering with the title, and then I have a lion on there. And each Tarzan book has a different lion. Sometimes the lion is roaring, sometimes he's facing the other way. But so that's kind of little stuff I do. So, but that's all I got, Paulo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that's amazing because you get to reintroduce this art into present it again, and the modern technology allows you to recreate it with the quality that it's supposed to have.
Yeah, and I've got one of a kinds. So
yeah.
Yeah, you have one of kinds, and you create your own library that matches up. Because sometimes you try to do a collection of stuff, well, like trade paperbacks, and then somewhere halfway through the production, they decide to let's change it up, and it's like now all the masterworks don't match.
that's right.
So
Yeah.
annoying.
In fact, there was a few years I would take the covers off of the Masterworks just to have the the red letters underneath, but you end up going back and putting those back on. But I want everything to look good, so
Yeah, the offset press plate. You can make such good prints with them. You can because they're perfect. As long as you've got a transparency scanner, which I don't have among my 3 scanners, but I have one at school that I have access to. So I was looking into checking eBay to see if they had some new offset press negatives. And some comic shop in, I don't know, remember where, like Baltimore, had just posted like 20 of them, all Harvey comics from the 70s. They have like 20 sets of the negatives. And I was going to get some Hot Stuff negatives.
okay.
Because that was my favorite. But what I ended up doing, because they had 20 of them there, and they didn't have like pictures of the covers, they just had pictures of the negatives and what one it was I started going to the Grand Comic Book Database and downloading the covers so I could look at them all and decide which one I got. Well, one of them was Little Lotta 121. And guess what? There is no picture of Little Lotta 121 on the Grand Comic Book Database because it was never printed.
Oh.
So I was like, ooh, I've got to get this one.
Yeah.
And I even like zoomed in on the picture of the negative because he could have mistyped the title.
Yeah.
But in the picture of the negative, I could see that it was issue 121. And I don't know anything about Little Lotta. But still, I was like, you know what? It would be cool to get a comic that has not ever been. I mean, I don't think anyone's ever seen this.
Yeah.
So I scanned it all in, printed it out, and like this is the cover to Little Lotta 121.
Cool. Oh, lots of red.
Yeah. That's really cool.
How cool is the cover that hasn't been seen? And I even printed some out. I'm going to give these to my local comic shop to see if anybody knows what it is. Printed it out at print size and put it in Silver Age bag. So that's actually what Little Lotta 121 was supposed to look like. And let me give a copy to Paolo. So let me attach it on Facebook.
Oh.
In case he wants to share the screen because mine's not working too well.
All right.
It looked good while you were showing it. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a nice looking.
I mean, you weren't freezing up or anything.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's a nice look. I when I saw this, I said that reminds me a little of Jeff Darrow.
Yeah,
All
where he
the
puts a
food
lot
coming
of
out
stuff.
of the. All the food coming out. But how cool is that? Here's a cover that probably has never been seen. The last time it was seen in color was, I don't know, 19. And it said that this cover was never printed but was in an ad. Or it said the book was never printed but it was advertised. So I wonder, these negatives are straight from the cover. They're not from an ad for the Little Lotta 121. This is straight from the ad. So they got as far as making the negatives. But I wonder if like this was shown in the ad or not. I have no idea, but this may be the first time this has ever been seen. So this is the one. I'll have to get a Hot Stuff cover sometime later.
Yeah.
Because like I said, the negatives run with shipping and tax about $50. I'd like to get them all, but you know. Yeah, let's get it. Let's get the whole cover in there.
Yeah,
that's great.
yesterday it was at Old Wolf 65 stream, and I mentioned that you were going to show the cover, and a few of the guys said they would pay you money to give them a copy.
All right.
Yeah, they could keep it on the down low.
As we speak about it on the internet here live.
Yeah, to the nine people watching us.
Yeah, the Little Lotta copyright holder is for sure going to come after us.
Uh-huh.
I wonder
Actually,
who it is.
I believe they're called Classic Media, which I believe was last owned by Paramount. Would have it if they still have it. Every now and then I go looking to see if any of those things are available.
Silver Knight Cal says in the early days they had etched metal original plates.
Wow.
He recently sold off a Tarzan plate from 1942 from Sparkler Comics number 19.
Wow.
Yeah, every once in a while I see those pop up and it's like,
Yeah.
those are cool, but it's like, I don't know if I would want to get that myself.
Yeah, went to offset printing in the late 50s, and he's got some ACG negatives from the 60s.
Oh, cool.
Nice.
Scan them in.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. In the few times that I've been online with Kyle, he has an amazing collection of everything. Yeah, no, it's stuff that it looks like junk, but it isn't. And sometimes he would pull it off, and it's like it goes straight into the 1950s and 60s. And can we tell he used to be a printer's apprentice?
Mm-hmm. Be sure the text balloon is full CMYK. I will. Okay.
All right.
Well, it was in this one, in the bunny one. They went so cheap on the separations, they didn't even make the word balloons white.
Yep.
I made there they are. It's like they did this color separation so cheaply they didn't even make the word balloons white. I made them white in Photoshop just so they looked normal. But this is how it actually printed without white word balloons. And I looked at it, a couple of those hot stuff negatives were the same way. Like the issues they had of hot stuff, they didn't even have like whited out word balloons. That's how cheap they were with the color separations.
Hi, Bill. Bill just
Hello
did a video with Savage Tales, I believe. Bill is going on all out on owning as many Marvel magazines as possible.
Wow.
Marvel magazines.
Now, if I did a collection, I'd probably go for a Marvel Preview and Bizarre Adventures, because I've read a few in the Brazilian magazines. They had a black and white Brazilian magazine just to publish they had stuff from Savage Tales Volume 2 and from Marvel Previews and Bizarre Adventures, and then before they went with the European stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But they did that's how I knew who Paradox was. Probably one of the most obscure Marvel characters ever.
Yeah, nobody knows who Paradox is but you and me.
Yeah.
Val Mayerick.
Yep. Well, Comic Mag Music probably does have the two Paradox stories now.
If he's been buying all those magazines, yes, I imagine he would.
Yeah, the funny thing is that even though that was not a superhero magazine, you find a lot of the superhero guys doing not quite superhero stuff. Like there's John Byrne doing dark humor. There's Frank Miller doing nothing related to Daredevil and Elektra. There's that amazing Paul Galassi story starring with Black Widow. There's Carmine Infantino working on Star-Lord. Amazing, yeah. So you find a lot of stuff that normally you wouldn't believe that they would be doing.
I just don't see magazines. I'd love to get my hands on some of those kung fu ones.
Oh yeah,
I've got the Hulk run and a lot of the Conans, but
Cal says the Sheldon Mayer's original layouts for DC's Bible Treasury. That's
wow.
interesting.
Silver Knight Kyle. I've recently let go of the entirety of Sheldon Mayer's original layouts for DC's Bible Treasury, including the second unpublished section, now in the UK. Now, soon to be up on Hera. Are they selling it all as one lot, do you think? Or they're Paradox is a favorite, but Bizarre Adventures brilliance.
Yeah. All right, so Wilson is telling us about the Harvey Comics properties. Returned to Universal when they acquired Classic Media's parent company, DreamWorks Animation.
Who later produced Harvey Street Kid. Based on, boy. The Paradox of Two Issues by Jamie Hewlett, published in Vortex. That's a different one.
Yeah. But there are two Paradox stories by Val Mayerick in Marvel Preview Bizarre Adventures. One of them takes up practically the whole of the magazine. The second one is slightly shorter, and they basically did away with the character because he went against type on the second story, and because of that, there's no room for a third one.
Then there was Paradox, who was an 80s indie comic by Peter Milligan, and the artist just flew out of my head, but he's very brightly colored, neat stuff.
The Kung Fu mags are pricey. Yeah. Yes, but the Kung, apart from maybe the odd issue of Savage Sword, Deadly Hands of Kung Fu is probably the magazine that's consistently more expensive.
Yeah, Comic Crack down there says the Paradox is by Brendan McCarthy. That's the artist, yeah. That's not paradox. That's paradox.
Okay, everybody's saying hi. Let me. You have both. Yeah, you know what, man, are you, man? Ever since you left Facebook, I have no way of contacting you because
Yeah.
we could we could probably do a show together, and and you could show that. So let's see if we can set it up.
Yeah.
That's Brent McCarthy. Mhm.
Then there's Paradigm, and that was an Image comic, I think, from the early 2000s, black and white.
I tried to look up Marvel Paradox, and all I got was when Doctor Strange was in that weird costume.
You have to look up
in the
Bizarre
90s.
Adventures. Yeah.
Mhm.
I could run in the other room and get him if you really want to see him.
Well, I know nothing of it because I never read any Bizarre Adventures. The only issue I ever tried to get, and it was just way too expensive, was the issue that had the X-Men on the cover. It was like, okay, I know the X-Men. That's a story I know nothing about.
You
But
talking about the one with
again,
Phoenix, Iceman, and
yes,
yeah, okay, yeah.
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 So I've seen that. That's the only cover to that magazine I ever saw in real life. And I think the shop wanted $35 for it. At the time, I was paying, 75 cents for an X-Men comic. It's like,
Yeah.
I wasn't going to pay that for a magazine that I know nothing about.
Yeah.
So it was like, I never picked up an issue. So
Here's the Bizarre Adventures I have, starting with issue 25.
Okay, thanks, Kyle. I'll send you a message later so we can set something up because I also want to test the other streaming the other streaming account. See if we can use that as an alternative to StreamYard. Should they go with the 5 hours on everything?
I can't tell you the last time I had these off the shelf.
Eh.
Bizarre Adventures 25.
I'm hoping you have the Thor issue.
26.
Yeah, that whole story takes up the whole of the book.
Beautiful. There he is.
there it is. Yep. It's the only one I
Yes,
ever
man.
wanted to get it. It was like, well, that's too expensive.
I like that cover. That's the one with the Electra and Triton and the what's the name of the ninja looking character? I used to remember that. Yeah, and Lawnmower Man. Yeah.
I have the artist edition portfolio of that too. Here is Paradox. You'll decide the fate of an empire.
Yeah, that's the second appearance.
Man, these are great.
Yep.
There's the Thor. Yeah.
Yep.
I don't remember that at all. Wow. Oh, look, I have 2 copies.
Wow.
Nice.
I wonder why I have 2 copies. I have no idea. But
You probably forgot
You bought it, you saw it again, and you bought it not knowing that you had it.
That was great.
I have to see if this is the one I remember. I thought I had 2 Paradox ones, but
Yeah, the other one is still Marvel Preview.
oh, it's in Marvel Preview. Okay,
Yeah.
then I might. There's the picture I remember most with Paradox.
Yeah.
Huh.
Not the most super heroic pose I'd ever seen.
Yeah, that second one is the one that has the Logan's Run knockoff story, right?
Is it? I don't remember these at all.
It probably you can probably see it in the first page because they have the
Let's see. Silhouette Honor.
yeah.
It's got Paradox, Silhouette, Honor, and Bucky Bizarre.
Okay, so that's not this one
No.
because there's a story which is a Logan's Run knockoff, and the character is called Bellard the Huntsman.
Some nice Paul Galassi.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very 2080.
So it looks like
Lammy loves anthologies.
What year was this?
Probably 1980. 79 or 80.
81, March 81.
Right.
That's probably when I started going to the third local newsstand was a little shop called Mary's.
Mhm.
So I was in high school and I was in 9th grade, I think, in 81. So that's probably when I started going to Mary's. And they were the only shop in around here that had Marvel magazines. So I'm guessing that's when I started buying the Marvel magazines.
Is the definition of anthology you have to have at least 3 different things? Because
I don't know.
I'm thinking the Hulk magazine had a backup feature of Moon Knight.
Yeah. I don't
But
think
I
that
don't
would be an
recall that.
anthology then. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that was
I'm-
headlining the Hulk no matter what.
Right.
So I'm not sure if that would be considered.
I don't know if there was a standard definition for comics, but I think it was something, an umbrella title with 3 stories. Who knows? It could be 2 stories even if
Hi, Meyer.
it wasn't named
Okay.
Hulk.
Take Walt Disney's Comics and Stories, for example. You start off with the Donald Duck, you go into a Lady and the Tramp, Scamp, or Bucky Bug, and then you end up with Mickey Mouse.
Yeah.
There's 3.
Right.
So is that anthology definition?
I would call that an anthology.
Yeah, I would too. But
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably what I hated the most with Disney comics was when they had characters from the animated movies. Because I liked the Duck universe and I liked the Mouse universe. I had zero interest in Scamp.
oh, I love Scamp and I love Al Hubbard, the artist, but yeah, but that's what your chat is talking about. There's always some feature that you don't care for
Exactly. Yeah,
in an anthology.
right. But that doesn't mean you write off the anthology. You know that next month probably there's no Scamp. But even if there's always a Scamp, if I don't mind if I like the other stories.
To be honest, when I'm getting Tales to Astonish, I want the Hulk. Not really that into Submariner.
Right.
And I call him Submariner. Some people say Submariner, but
Look, right next to it was the other one that Powell mentioned.
Yeah.
There you
Marvel
go.
Preview.
Yeah, I never read it. Nothing. No memory, not even a slight ever
Well, that's
seen
because
that
these are
cover.
the only 2 issues with it in it.
Yeah.
And he was the only ballet dancer influenced character.
Oh my.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, okay. You buried the lead on that one. You didn't even tell us what he's about.
Little nudity for you.
Woo!
Uh-huh.
There's our PG-13 rating right there.
Yeah.
This is a European stream. Everything is PG-13.
A ballet dancer with wrist lasers. Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
Who
I
came up
can't
with this?
imagine why that didn't catch on.
No, it's really because of the way that they finished the second story because basically they made the character unusable for the third one.
Now he would have made a boyfriend for the Dazzler.
Mhm.
Or
Yeah.
No, I think we need to team him up with Nightshade.
When Comic Mag Music thinks of anthologies and too many recurring characters. Well, if you think of 2000 AD, Judge Dredd is a recurring character. The other who's always there. The other ones keep coming back, like Nemesis the Warlock. Is not there in every issue, but he usually comes back. Then you have stuff like DR and Quinch, which is a series of short stories until the Alan Moore and Alan Davis stopped producing new stories. Tammy Wimey, I'm just thinking the same thing regarding Grimjack and its Munden's backup strip. Yeah, the Munden's was a, but Munden's is related enough to Grimjack to not make it quite an anthology, but in itself, it's an anthology because each story is different. It doesn't have to follow a pattern like Grimjack does. Comic Mag Music. Super Barishnikov. Kyle sent me some Bizarre Adventures photos. Cool. Let me check. Here you go. Yeah.
Bizarre Adventures.
Yeah, I'm going to save this picture so I can show them. All right. Yeah, it's the ones you were showing too. All right. So let's see
And the
now.
two other number ones I got this week. Let's see. Have you guys ever read Mouse Guard before?
Kind of.
I had gotten a free preview of it, so
Yeah,
I recognize the artwork, but I've never actually read it.
I only read a little of it, and this is in the new series. It's issue 1. It's from Boom now. Dawn of the Black Axe. I guess there's some guy who carries a black axe in the Mouse Guard world, and this is the origin story of him finding it. And the
So it's
art
not-
is terrific. I really enjoyed this issue.
It's like a pamphlet size.
Yeah, it's this weird. How big is this? Let's see. I'll measure it on my desk. 8 inches by 8 inches by 8 inches, so it's square. Weird size. All the Mouse Guard stuff is this size.
Mhm.
Some terrific art in it. I don't know what made them ever choose this size.
It's probably the size you wanted to tell the story in.
Yeah, usually
He was
economics wins out when that happens.
He was influenced by something
Yeah,
and decided this is the format I want to go.
he had to be, especially since before Instagram, Square was never a format, was never like a legitimate format that photographers or artists work in. Strangely, like no one ever worked in squares. Instagram actually changed that because that became like the first popular pop culture thing that was formatted to the square. And all of a sudden, after that, square stuff started popping up more. But what Mouse Guard was from before then. So interesting. But
Yeah,
good.
so-
I might get some more of that.
Yeah. So Kyle sent me pictures of a few of the Marvel previews and Bizarre Adventures that he has. So this is the number one. It's Mad Gods from Beyond the Stars, which is kind of inspired on Eric von Daniken's books.
Mhm.
This is the first Blade solo story in issue number 3. And this is the first Star-Lord, still by
Yeah.
Steve Englehart, where still very angry and has nothing to do with the Chris Claremont John Byrne version.
And Silver Knight Kyle said, All Red did Rocket 7 in Square. That just reminds me because it was supposed to be a record album. The record albums
Yeah.
are the one thing that were formatted square.
Yeah.
Annie Leon's cover. So there's a Thor story, this Marvel preview, which is it's kind of this comic in particular. The theme is gods. Then there's this. This is the first time that they use the Bizarre Adventures name. So it's in Marvel preview number 20, because this issue is all reprints. It doesn't have any new stories, but it's got this great new Dominic Fortune cover.
Did Marvel Preview become Bizarre Adventures?
Yeah, from issue
Okay.
number 25. So
Right.
see, even the number 23, it's Bizarre Adventures 2.
Right.
And now these are new stories, but there are no regular characters. But it still says Marvel Preview.
This is amazing. So I'm looking at Bizarre Adventure up on eBay just for the fun of it.
Yeah.
So remember that X-Men issue that I would not buy for $35?
Yep.
I could pick it up now for $5.
Wow.
$6 shipping. It costs more to ship this book
Yes.
than to get the book itself. That is amazing. That's
So
bizarre.
here it is, that Paradox, and the Bizarre Adventures of the X-Men, and the one with Elektra.
Now, were these in full color insides?
No,
No, they're
they're still black and white.
Black.
They're
Only
black.
Who is that?
only issue number 34 is in color.
Okay.
Who
which
is
is the
that
last
that's
one.
underneath Elektra on that cover?
That was Silhouette,
Silhouette.
and the other one is, I think, is Ballard the Huntsman.
Yes. That's the Logan's Run costume.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then there's this Triton solo story, which may have been meant for something else, but it's here.
So, since it's anthology stories, although these are 4 different stories going on, but they put all 4 characters on the cover,
Mhm.
which is interesting in itself. Trying to figure out a cover design for anthologies are always a hard,
Yeah.
a hard way
And
to design.
IDW did Lawnmower Man as an artist edition portfolio.
Mhm.
So instead of a book, each page is its own individual print. Here's the, and it's supposed to look like the original art. It's photographed right from the original art. So each page, you can see the paste ups on, you can see the whiteout. So this is one of those Bizarre Adventures stories. A Walter Simonson drawn Stephen King one.
Mhm.
Yep. So
Jared, does it have the original price tag on it? Would you?
I don't think so. No, the art doesn't have. The cover art doesn't have the paste ups on it. It's just the cover art.
No, I mean, how much did that set you back in the
Oh,
day?
I don't. My friend, these weren't too expensive at the beginning. They were like $50-$60 maybe,
Okay.
and that would be the high end. My friend Ed got it. He probably got it for fairly cheap.
Mhm. Anyway, so Nightcal says that they're going to have Howard checking on Geekly Weekly, so you'll have to subscribe to the Gray Man, because that's where they usually have Geekly Weekly on Wednesdays. And JM DeMatteis, and JM DeMatteis is a regular guest that they have on. How many times have you guys had DeMatteis?
Fifth visit.
Fifth visit, amazing. But it's always interesting to hear, because he's a very every time he speaks, it sounds like he's a very nice guy.
Here's a one shot I got this week from Image. It was like a graphic album, but it's saddle stitched, not square bound, which I prefer. There's our creators: Garth Ennis, Dalibor Talajic. I know I got that wrong because Paolo's told me it before, and I can't remember what a C is at the end of a word.
And the J.
The J that gets me. Talajic. The J becomes a Y.
The J becomes a Y, and the C is supposed to have an accented character that makes the C is a T, but if it has an accent, which they didn't print here, but I know it's there because I know it makes it turns the T into a Ch. And the other one is Stepan Bartolic.
But this, I enjoyed this one. I'll describe it as a zombie story, but they're not really zombies. What happens is all of the infants in the world suddenly become grown-ups. But they're still babies. So they kind of storm around like zombies because they're just kind of hungry, they want food, and the whole world goes to chaos. And it's about this one family who mother and father, and they have a baby, and you don't know what's going on until like a third of the way through the book. They just think this crazy person got into their baby's room in the middle of the night, but we find out the crazy person is the baby, and they go out and try to. It's a book about the chaos of what would happen. It's just such a weird idea. All of a sudden, every baby became a full-grown adult at once. It was kind of fun. Another fun, bloody Garth Ennis tale. Every parent thinks their kids grow up too quickly.
Tammy Whammy Lemon says that last time he saw Howard Chicken on a live stream, he commissioned the cover. That's great. Werewolf by Lunchtime. The fabulous furry Freak Brothers could have done with a lawnmower man. They'd have a lot of. That would be an interesting crossover. Lawnmower Man meets the Freak Brothers.
Huh.
So in the night, Hillary Barton's been on 4 times. Also Steve Root, Tom Mandrake, Tom Orzakowski, Raphael Nieves, and others, including Bill Sienkiewicz and Bob Burden guesting soon too. Yeah, that's great. They managed to when they all get together, they managed to have some interesting guests.
That's cool.
Yeah, and the Geekly Weekly is always on Wednesday nights. Although usually they're just doing piles of comics that they want to buy.
Now I want to see the awesome cover.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. You need to do more.
When I bring this to my LCS, how many people will you think will actually know what it is? I'm thinking 0.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I do notice.
I mean, Harvey, you have to be into. You either were there at the time to remember the Harvey comics, or you have to be really interested in that type of stories, because there's a new generation who's never had any contact with this type of kids comics.
Right. I knew Harvey from the cartoons first. And there was only a small group of Harvey characters in the cartoons. And you find out there's a whole lot more characters a little later on. And I almost met one of the Harvey artists when I was a kid, because when I was living in New Rochelle, the artist had an account with this local store that I would like be the stock boy for. And so the person would order his groceries and they would be delivered. So I would sometimes go on the delivery run, but I never got to actually meet the artists themselves. It was like the artist's wife or something like that. And to this day I do not know who that artist was. All I was told was that this guy drew Harvey comic books, and that he may have drawn like Casper and stuff like that at the time. But I wouldn't even remember the name. There was a lot of artists in that New Rochelle area, because when in the 80s, again, I was a kid there, they celebrated Tiny Toons, and they named one of the streets after the Tiny Toons, because the Tiny Toons building was in New Rochelle, and it was this white building that had this big image of Mighty Mouse on it. So Mighty Mouse kind of like birthplace is supposed to be New Rochelle, or at least their office was there for a little while.
Mighty Mouse's office is in New Rochelle.
Yes. So I never got to meet the artist or find out who it was. But it was one of those things so it was like, so Harvey always kind of triggered that memory of like, oh, I could have met one of these guys in animation or in comic books. No idea yet, or no idea who it was. And again, it was one of those things where it's like, but I was aware of Harvey from the cartoons, and then find out later that they had a series of comics. So, yeah, I don't know who in your comic shops would even know those unless they're over 50 and watch the cartoons.
Yeah, almost.
And by the way, I noticed there's a you guys are all awesome. Yeah.
Yes, but you're awesome too, Kyle.
I noticed there's a note on here, so that red line there that says, please opaque all colors and reverse type out of key. So maybe that black type up top is supposed to be white.
Oh, yeah.
Could be. I'll try a version like that.
Got to find the ad. It probably was the issue before it.
Could be. If they showed the cover.
Yes. Right.
It was due 6/11. Wonder what year was 121 or 120?
120. So
You tell us
we were
June
we were
11th.
looking at that. Yeah, we were looking at that last week. So
Yeah.
Little Lotta number 120 was cover dated March 76.
Okay, so this one
Yeah.
must be 6/11/76. This was due.
Just before the barcodes showed up, I
Right.
believe.
In 5/14. So somewhere between 5/14/76 and 6/11/76, they said, nope, we're not publishing this.
And what, they usually publish 3 months beforehand they would have done the artwork? Would they
Yeah.
have done the interiors by then
I don't
as
think
well?
so, because the covering usually got done first, so they might
Yeah.
not have any interiors done.
And they were usually fairly generic covers, so they didn't
Yeah,
connect to the
at
story
this stage,
inside.
Harvey was doing reprints only.
Ah. So there wouldn't be any new.
No. And it was bi-monthly. So this one was March, 120 was March, 119 was January, 118 was November, 117 was September. Yeah, and these are all reprints from the 60s.
Oh, okay. And do we know who the cover artist was?
Nope.
Nope. Unknown. Did a night Jeff Darrow, I think.
Early Jeff Darrow.
That would have been awesome.
Oh, I just noticed what's actually production art supervisors notes to the printer. Yep.
One of a kind.
I did not. It's not just that the stuff is falling out of the freezer. Who is old enough to remember when you had to defrost a freezer?
You still have to defrost freezers.
No, you don't. They're auto defrosting.
No, they're not. No, they're
freezers.
not. No.
You obviously are not aware of what freezers used to be. If you think you have to defrost a freezer now,
Yeah.
they have defrost cycles now. It's automatic. You used to have to unplug your freezer and chip all the ice out of it.
Yeah, I did that when I was a kid.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's what we had to do. Yeah, defrosting freezer. But anyway, I just noticed she's pulling the ice. She's got one of those little, show it again, please. Bet it's Sid Couchy. She had one of those, you know how there used to not be a separate door for the freezer. It used to be like a little box inside the refrigerator, that freezer era. So it wasn't, you open the refrigerator, and then inside the refrigerator was a tiny little door that was a freezer. So she's pulling the ice cubes out of the tiny little door, but it's so defrosted, she is so frosted up, she's pulling the tiny little box freezer right out of the refrigerator. It's cracking, and that's why everything's tipping over. You can see that.
Ah, okay.
So show it again, please. Bet it's Sid Couchy. I don't know how you'd recognize a Sid Couchy cover.
Yeah. Yes.
But yeah, she was pulling on the ice cube tray and yanked the whole freezer compartment out of the fridge. So everything's falling out on her.
Because some of the I think that a lot of people did in the Grand Comics database. If it's a Harvey comic, they just put in Warren Kramer.
Yeah.
Even when it wasn't.
Yeah.
Sid did the majority of a lot of books, especially covers. Okay.
Okay.
Maybe it's Sid Couchy. I'm going to have to write that name down.
But would he still be there in the 70s? Because the stories that they're reprinting were from 15 years before.
Maybe. I mean, Warren kept working for years. And he did so much art. We had so much of the artwork for
because he did work for Star Comics, right?
Yeah. And he was one that just like he had too much artwork. He let it sit at the offices because he had no place to put it because he did that much art. And it was years that we had his artwork. to send back. So it's like, some of these guys just didn't ask for it back. It just piled up. I had boxes of artwork for him.
So
Says
did a
a lot
lot
of-
of from the get-go, says
Yeah.
Silver Knight Kyle.
Was the
Okay,
primary
maybe,
guy.
yeah, who knows? I mean, he certainly was no slouch, whoever did this cover. Trying to find a hidden signature. I don't see one.
Check the refrigerator, where they would be like a marking for the refrigerator. That was
I was looking at, there were some lines underneath the refrigerator. I'm like, ooh, he gets to hide a signature there, but no,
okay.
or initials. Just
Or
lines.
on any packaging design. Check the butter.
Butter is an open butter dish, no package.
Okay.
No SC I can see anywhere. But wow, pretty neat to find that. Like I said, I'd like to get some. I might buy one of the Little Devil ones, whatever the heck its name
Hot
keeps
Stuff.
flying out of my Hot Stuff. I might buy one of the Hot Stuff ones at some point, but I need another $50. I actually have some tax return money. I just did my taxes today too. And last year, I owed the state as much as I got back from federal. This year, I'm actually getting some money back because I paid a lot of quarterly taxes.
Cal says he got to know Sid before he passed away, chipped in a bit for his medical bills in the early 2000s, and he sent him some signed books. Heroic Comics.
Nice. From his own collection from the fish. Cool.
Nice.
No, that's the thing with the comics industry. You get sick and you die.
Yeah. Welcome to America, where healthcare is, you're lucky to have it.
I am still pissed.
I can leave at any time.
I am still pissed off about the Dave Cockrum situation.
Oh, yeah.
Because if the publishers, if some of the publishers who do indie comics actually had their money where their mouth is, when Cockrum was admitted to the hospital for the first time, somebody would have stepped forward. We are doing a special reprinted edition of the Futurians to help pay Dave Cockrum's hospital bills. Nobody even thought about doing that.
Yeah.
Even Steve Dillon upsets me because Steve Dillon was. Yeah, I know, but he was from a land of universal. They have universal health care. He came to New York. He died in New York City of something preventable. I think it was an appendix burst. But I imagine if he was home and he felt bad, he probably would have went to the hospital. But instead, he's in New York City going, and he probably just went to bed and died.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What was that?
Yeah, exactly. He would have waited until he got back in the UK to take care of it.
Right. And because he's like, I don't want to pay New York City prices for any medicine because it's crazy out of control. But if we had universal health care, he might have just gone to the hospital and lived.
Sid Couch worked at Heroic Comics with Frazetta. So that would have been, that would have been what, 48, 49? There's a bunch of credits in the Green Comics database which are just wrong, because there was this guy called Angelo Torres, and he inking like Frazetta. So for some reason, somebody showed up on the updates and decided to add possible Frazetta inks all over Angelo Torres's stuff throughout the 1950s. And it was only a couple of months ago that somebody finally did an update. Frank Frazetta was not doing inking assists in 1957.
Nah.
Yeah, I've noticed that, Paulo, that they'll still leave both names and then they'll have a note. According
Yeah.
to Marie Severin, this was done by blah blah blah. But you still leave both in there with a question mark. Like
Yeah.
we don't know who to go with. Yeah, I see that
Yeah.
from time to time.
There are probably some good ground rules on who you should go with, and if Marie Severin says says something, it's probably Marie
Yeah.
Marie Severin knows. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's this guy who does a lot, who tries to do a lot of art spotting, and he can either be very good or completely wrong. But if you have two people disagreeing, and one of them is Michael J. Vassalo, then go with Michael J. Vassalo. Kyle was the winning bidder on Cochrom's personal issue of X-Men 164, cover cut oversized. The family put up for medical assistant. Disputes in the family. Yeah, I have a friend of mine that didn't have and he did. Of course, he didn't know her because but he read a lot of magazines about comics back then. So, and he didn't have a very good impression of Patty Cochrom's general behavior. So I suppose that's kind of
could be the origin of the disputes.
Yeah.
Let me quickly run through 9 comics.
Let's do it.
We got Long Cold Winter, issue
Never heard of it.
4 of 4. It's the Stefano Cardacelli book. That's been all about this guy, Peace Dog, trying to get this robot to a safe place. It's been good 4 issues. We've got Monstrous 56. This story has been especially good. We get to hear a lot from the monsters this issue. We got Paul Azacetas, The Seasons, number 3. This one still hasn't grabbed me. Rick Remender writing it, but I'm going to keep buying it because Paul Azaceta is a former bullpenner. So Wilson and I know him. Howl, issue number 3. Love this cover. This is just sort of she's a science fiction writer. And we get more into this. Takes place in New York City in the Village in the late 50s. And there's some sort of alien invasion going on, but it's very subtle. Latest issue of Savage Dragon, always good. Amy Dragon Unleashed. We get an issue about Amy Dragon and the Tiger Man. Dust to Dust, J.G. Jones, Dust Belt drama. That's been really good. We get some more background in this one. It takes place in the Dust Bowl in the Great Depression back in the 30s. Latest issue of Department of Truth. Issue 29. They're talking about making things true or not. The second issue in the new direction for Radiant Black. The big war is over, but there's shady stuff going on with some alternate dimension killing people. So always good. And this is our last one, which is a one-shot. Life is an Open Door by Critical Entertainment published it. Mendoza, Molina, Gonzalez. And this one was pretty interesting in that there's no words. It reminds me of the drawing a little bit of Hepcats because it's animals as humans. Except the name Life is an Open Door because all of these dogs are working in this office, these dog people. And I think there's like cats and foxes are the bosses. And they leave the door open one time, and the dog people all just kind of run out. So it's kind of about how work is boring, and let's run out and have a good time. It really kind of put a smile on my face. This one, a good one shot. I think it must have been a Kickstarter or something, because I think the date on it is 2022, printed in June 2023. So it must have been a Kickstarter. That happens sometimes. Like they just got around to distributing it through Diamond or something. But it was a fun story. A little romance going on between, but no words in it at all. Little romance going on between a couple of the dogs and this and that, but I really enjoyed that one. It put a smile on my face.
Hey, Paulo, if you could let me show Jared too that it's not hot stuff, but if you're
Okay.
looking for a good
Sure thing.
cover,
Let me just read Kyle's comment here. At Heroic Comics, Rosetta was doing ad pages for Boy Scouts, and Sid did interior art. All right, early 50s. Okay, so it'd still be doing. Although at this stage, it'd probably be switching more to commercial art than actual comics. If for certainly was not doing inking assists at Atlas Comics for Martin Goodman. All right, let's
hopefully
go.
this won't be too scary, but it's a good Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Oh.
They have a couple of spooky covers that are good too. I was noticing those. I was like, maybe I should get a spooky instead of a hot stuff. But that one looks nice. I like
this one. This one has some decapitation for a Harvey. So it's the Headless Horseman. So anyway, those are my two favorite.
They have the. Let me see where is. Let me see if I can find where I downloaded everything to. They have Spooky 154 and 155 in Spooky Spooktown 62, 63, and 66. Let's see. Spooky Spooktown 63 is pretty good. And they have Hot Stuff 134, 138, 141, 142. And I'd say 141 is my favorite of the hot stuffs. But they have 134 and 142 are both hot stuff skiing covers.
Yeah, nice theme collection going on there.
Yeah, I was like, But like, if you ever want to make some really nice prints, those production negatives really scan nicely if you have access to a 8x10 transparency scanner, which isn't easy to have access to. They're expensive. I was just looking at buying one, like the one I have at school. I have an 11x17 scanner, but it doesn't have a transparency attachment. And so like an 11x17 scanner with a transparency attachment, which they have at school, is like $3-4 grand. So they ain't cheap. And the 8x10, like I could get an 8x10 scanner. I have another one that does smaller transparencies. But if you want an 8x10 transparency scanner, the Epson one, I think the retail on it is $1,200. So it's like, ooh. But I was looking at some used on eBay for around $700 or $800. I didn't get one. Do you have any scanners at your house, Graphic Man?
No, I sure don't.
No, you got to get yourself a scanner. You can get a cheap
For my
one.
covers, I go to a guy, and
okay,
yeah.
Okay, Jared, do you have any read, rip, and slab?
Sure
Ready?
do.
All right, Micah, pick a decade.
80s.
80s. Okay.
Okay, let me open up here. 19.
I have no idea what you wanted me to do.
Okay, so this is the F, Marry, Kill.
It's the game we play.
Yeah. So you have to choose a comic to read, a comic to rip, and a comic to slab.
Right.
Then we have some special rules that we came up with.
One of them that's Stefano Cardicelli got us. He's the one who, let's see, he's the one who drew Long Cold Winter that got us into the Pink Flamingos. There we go. September 1984. We've got a Marvel, an Indie, and a DC.
Mhm. All right.
1984. So I was just starting. I was collecting comics, and I didn't have any of these. Although maybe the Flash, I got it in a back issue
I'm pretty
bin.
sure I had the Flash and Red Sonja. I meant Tit Goblin, Read Red Sonja, Rip Flash, and Slab Saber.
I have to
Yeah.
say, I agree with Tit Goblin.
Yeah.
You're going with the.
Which is a statement I didn't think I'd ever make, but that's exactly what I would do.
That's something
Yeah.
to say every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do the same thing. Yeah, because the Saber cover, of course, it's very posterish. So
Yep.
even if that wasn't the comic, you saw that in a poster magazine in the '80s, in a poster shop in the '80s, and this looks good.
But I'd
On
like
my
to
wall.
point out that Flash 340 might be the most valuable of these three covers,
It
of
might,
these three comics.
might be.
Yep.
Might be.
Because those issues I know raised up in price some years ago because nobody was buying them.
Yeah.
I actually bought it then and got rid of my issues years ago.
I would read the Flash because I'm interested enough for the Flash to read that story. I would slap Red Sonja because I really like the way that cover looks, even though Sabri has the poster kind of look. Just some reason about the Red Sonja, I enjoy it. So I would unfortunately would have to rip Sabri.
Saber.
Saber.
Yeah.
Saber. So I would rip Saber
Right down the middle.
right down the middle, straight down the middle. And I would put the flamingos with the Flash because he looks very lonely. And as far as the Dolphin's concerned, I'm thinking of replacing Red Sonja with a Dolphin. So it's a
that's
classic,
the obvious choice, right?
yeah, it's
Okay,
a classic
okay, so-
battle between the squid and a dolphin.
Okay, so Micah, do you remember that once I showed the cover of the French Aquaman #1 with the dolphin instead of
Yeah.
Mera? So what we do here is we replace something in one of the covers with a dolphin. So you have to choose what you want to replace.
That's one of the rules we just came up with as we played
Yeah.
this game over
Yeah.
time.
And
Yeah,
I
we
am
had-
going to I'm
the
going
other
to
one
replace the Saber logo with the dolphin.
This artist right here, who I showed a book of, Stefano Cardacelli. Where's his book? Long Cold Winter. He drew this one. He was drawing another apocalyptic book, and all in the book he just kept drawing pink flamingos. They had nothing to do with the plot. They had nothing to do with the art. They'd just kind of be standing around watching every now and then. So now we also decide the pink flamingos don't replace anything. They just get put somewhere so they can watch what's going on.
Right. They don't interfere. They would just watch.
Yeah.
They're like the watcher in that sense.
Yes, the watcher. Pink I'm going to slab that Flash cover because I kind of like that one. And I don't want to read it because I don't. I've never been a big Carmen Infantino fan. Yeah. I was not a DC Comics fan, but I was just starting to, I started buying DC. I was always a Marvel kid. I started buying DC Comics with George Perez going to DC and doing the Teen Titans and the Justice League. So I started buying the Flash because of the Keith Giffen Dr. Fate backups. And then I just kept buying because, comics were cheap then. There weren't a ton of them. So I started reading the Trial of the Flash. And it was actually I hated Carmen Infantino as a kid. Whenever there was a Carmen Infantino fill-in issue at Marvel, I would cry. But this Flash stuff was some of his better work and really weird and distorted. I liked it. But then I just kind of got fascinated by how much they were stretching out the story.
Yeah.
Which I didn't know at the time was because of Crisis was coming. And they were doing an exercise and stretching out the story. But I kept buying it. But I'm not going to tell you it was good.
Hmm.
So I got rid of my issues sometime in the 90s. Cut to probably the early 2000s. I was like, mid 2000s. I want to read. Is that story? Is it as bad as I remember? Was it because the issues had gone up in price because nobody bought it, and Flash completists now wanted those issues. So I found some scans of him and read like one issue and was like, that's it. I can't read this. This is terrible. This is terrible.
Okay. Eric P says, read Red Sonja, Rip Flash, Slab Saber, Dolphin, the Shadow of the Flash, and Flamingos in the back of Saber.
I think I'm going to agree with him on Flamingos and back of Saber. I want them kind of behind, like one on either side of her looking at, well, I don't even actually think that's Saber, but whoever that is. So I'm going to slab Flash, I'm going to rip Red Sonja, and I'm going to read Saber. Though that's a pretty good Pat Broderick cover on Red Sonja.
Yeah. I'm going to put the Flamingos on the Octopus. They're just looking. So what's going? Hey, Octopus, what are you going to do to Red Sonja?
I could see a flamingo standing on each eye of the octopus.
Mm-hmm. And the octopus would find it annoying.
And I think I'm also going to dolphin Red Sonja. I think that'll be that's the way to go.
Yeah. Dolphin in their own comic.
Well, that looks like she'd have to be dolphined anyway. I don't think you can show that in our French. Flash Mingos.
Yeah, Flash Mingos.
I would try to get the flamingos inside the lettering of The Trial Begins.
Oh yeah,
like out the shape of the letters.
One could be standing on the bottom of the B.
Right. And then in the background of Saber, I put the dolphin just looking at her. But
no, we have to replace somebody with the dolphin. The flamingos don't replace anyone. The dolphin has to replace someone or something. I think we have at times dolphined the logo.
Can the dolphin replace the octopus and be holding her?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
No, it doesn't have to make sense.
All right.
Yeah.
Making sense isn't the point.
Exactly. I mean, remember that when they used the dolphin on Mera on the French Aquaman, this doesn't make any sense. Why is Aquaman holding a dolphin?
Yeah.
Looking for
allowed to hold a woman.
All right. Okay.
The more I look at that Pat Broderick cover, the more I like it.
Yeah.
Shame I ripped it up.
Yeah, Pat Broderick Pat Broderick has a style that doesn't look quite right the first time you see it, but then you need to read more of that art. You do. Pat Broderick is good like that.
Pat Broderick was trying to be a fan favorite with his style, and he got close, but he was just missing something. But I like his work in general.
Yeah.
But you could almost like this. That one's looking almost Art Adams-ish.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see how.
But there was no Art Adams yet.
No. But you can see how he's going for that. And he's going for that sort of fan favorite art, everything round with hatching and style, but he just missed. I mean, I liked his Captain Marvel. I remember, I think his Captain Marvel after Al Milgram's Captain Marvel was a kind of breath of fresh air.
Well, he's making good use of the up and down of the cover limitations.
Yes. I think
contrast that to Carmen and Fantino.
Yeah.
They're having to make the lettering, fill in the gaps.
Well, I think that one was about the lettering. That one's all
probably,
about.
But yeah, I prefer the other two.
I like the Flash one. I mean, I do, but yeah, I can see. I already slabbed the Flash one, so I don't want to change now. But the more I'm looking at that Red Sonja one, you know what it is? The logo on the Red Sonja one is terrible.
Agreed.
Yeah,
and
that is a bad logo.
And the placement of the corner box is terrible. It's got I always say there's three things that make a sort of a good classic comic book cover. Good drawing, good design, and it has to tell a story. Those are the three things I think that, which is why I don't like a lot of the pinup comic books.
No.
They have now. Like the Flash one has good design, tells a story, okay drawing. The Saber one has okay everything. Red Sonja has good drawing, it tells a story, but bad design. And not Pat Broderick's bad design, just the bad design of the cover. So that's what makes it. And the Saber one doesn't tell a story, so that's what makes it down a notch in my book.
Okay. Timey Wimey Limey says it's still here, but Twitter fools trying to debate on time travel. Well, nobody's known.
Here's where you come for your time travel info. We know.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Because Arnold is the Dolphinator. I'll be Squeak Squawk. You think time travel to the future would be inarguably simple, but apparently not. Well,
Time travel. Because as soon as you travel to the future, you're from the past. There is no just time travel to the future. Unless you're doing actual scientific wormhole stuff, then that's a whole.
Yeah.
Oh, so I have an amazing Broderick portfolio.
That's great. That DC Bible Treasury had notes from Infantino in it, and a letter from Mayer to him included with him. Okay.
I think the first Pat Broderick I saw was his Captain Marvel. I don't know what that year was, probably the early 80s.
It was in Marvel's. It was at the end of the original Captain Marvel's run, and continues into Marvel Spotlight V2.
Right. And I remember
so this would be around 78, 79.
And I remember when I first saw that, I was like, oh, he has a chance to be a fan favorite. Because at that time was like the beginning of fan favorite artists like John Byrne, who, guys who the back issue price of their books would go up just because they drew it. And I thought but by the time he was on Firestorm, I didn't think he had a shot anymore. Though I liked his stuff. Like I said, I've always liked it. But I think he just missed out on that being a fan favorite.
No, there was an Atom the Barbarian story. After the second, there were 2 miniseries, and then there were 3 one-shot specials. The third one was published after Crisis, and instead of Gil Kane art, it had Pat Broderick art, and it looked like a good combination with the overall Gil Kane art. Broderick was also the one who replaced Michael Golden as the regular artist on the Micronauts.
Oh yeah, that's right. He did some nice stuff on there, and also his Did you ever get Sunrunners?
No.
That was his sort of indie book that he put out in maybe the mid '80s. That was when he was really trying on that one. It's got some nice looking stuff. Sunrunners. It only had like 6 issues or something, but that was when he was, in the '80s, when a lot of those, Frank Miller or whoever, those guys were leveraging their popularity into indie books on occasion. That was his.
Tammy Wimey Lime says Back to the Future has no sequels according to its own rules. No, they did not. They did not watch their movie. Captain Marvel 62 was a classic.
Okay, I don't remember that one specifically, but I think I still have it. I'll have to go look it up. Like I said, I really thought when his Captain Marvel came out, it kind of revived Captain Marvel a bit, which had been in the doldrums since just about when Starlin left. Because I think Al Milgrom did a bunch of the issues, which were fine. But
I'm not familiar with the 62. I'm thinking 68.
What was that?
not familiar with the 62 Captain Marvel. I'm thinking 68.
No, it's
No,
just,
the issue-
issue 62.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Issue
the
62.
the last one of the regular title. Then it moves into Marvel Spotlight.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And he has a major fight with Stellar Rex, but it continues, and then it continues.
Good stuff. Good stuff. What? See, did I get everything here in that last 9? I think I did. Monstrous Howl. This
Frank
Howl
Miller
has been
did
a
the
really
cover.
nice surprise.
Yeah, Frank Miller did the cover to Marvel Spotlight #1. Yeah, Frank Miller and Captain Marvel is an interesting combination.
Oh, and by the way, you can even print 3M proofs. This is for Bunny. I'm going to do one. This is the one where this is they used to have proofs of every cover where you could see each printing plate. There's the yellow plate, the cyan plate, the magenta plate, and the black plate brings it all together.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what they used to send well, they send this one to Harvey to check to make everything was okay. Often called 3Ms, I guess. But being that nowadays you can print these on an inkjet, I'd be careful about buying old production art because sometimes you see old 3M proofs show up on and now that I'm like, oh, I can do these myself. So if you've got the negatives and stuff. Heroic comic.
Yeah, so Kyle sent me this photo of Heroic Comics #1. No, what's the number of this one? Number 71, and this one is by this is a cover by Sid Cauchy.
Okay, yeah, that's all painted, so we can't. I would sign something different.
H.C. Kiefer.
Oh yeah, he did a lot of Classics Illustrated.
Okay.
But he did the inside. Sid Cauchy.
Yeah, it's signed here. So maybe no, probably not.
Oh, that was his copy that he sent him. They said.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, now I remember.
Yeah, March 1952.
So he didn't do the cover, but
no, but he did the
Sid did the interior work. Cover by Pfeiffer, Jules Pfeiffer.
Really?
Master Sergeant Travis Wilkins. Frazetta, there we go. There's that signature.
Mm-hmm. So it's Sid doing the inking or the backgrounds,
or maybe some other story.
Yeah, but it's San Frazetta here. There it is. Yeah. Cool.
That's a Frazetta house ad. Okay.
Okay. All right.
Brought to you by Frank Frazetta.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Cal.
Okay. I got to put the black plate on the outside so I know what this is. Little Lotta.
Yeah. If you put the plates out of sequence, what happens?
All the colors get messed up. If you don't paste the cyan, if you paste the magenta plate in the cyan channel, it messes everything up. All the colors change. There it is. That's how it was set up before. That's how it was mailed to me. And let's see if Wilson knows this. 25 cents, 35 cents.
America and Canada?
I think there was actually some, but they must have had two prices on it. And they kept that down there so they could paste on the 35 cent for the price change.
Yeah, it could have been also, I don't think they changed the price by region, but I mean, of course, America and Canada kind of had those types of pricing going on.
I think it
That's the
might.
only thing I can think of. Other than that,
I think
were
that's what it is.
right, and then weren't the ones that were sold on the army barracks a different price?
Ah.
Mm.
I just noticed that on the Grand Comic Book Database for the later issues, they have U.S. and Canada, though they don't have any photos of the Canadian ones. But maybe 35 cents was Canadian. But the reason they do something like the only reason they do something like that is if they had to change the price.
Yeah,
And that's one plate change, so it'll be free. If you put the price in red, that's 2 plate changes. They got to change it on the black plate and the magenta plate. They charge you for that. Sid did other stories, just showed off the early.
All right.
Okay.
From my discombobulated collection of ephemera. Okay, see, if you brought your channel back, you could call it Discombobulated Collection of Ephemera.
There we go. I spent 25 cents on the regular sized issues, 35 cents on the large ones. Ah. Yeah, they just cut out the 35 cents from the bottom and move it up. White out the other one. They stick her over the white plate as but they needed it down there just so they have it. So that they probably stuck that on the original art. So when they made
the ones that I had from Marvel, it would be 2 black plates together,
right.
And one was the Canadian price and one was the American price, and that's how they were doing it, at least in the 90s.
When I did covers in the 90s, did the production on covers, we'd have an overlay with the Canadian price on it. Channel never coming back. I'm dying. Don't have time for all that. Just one show a week from here on. Oh.
I don't say it like that, Kyle.
We're all dying slowly. Hopefully not too quickly, just slowly. That's why I'm, I've been given like a bunch of art books as well as comics to my students, just because I got so much stuff. I keep buying more stuff. I got a billion comics this week, more than I usually get. So I'm like, I got to get rid of some of this stuff. I can't even sell it. Most of it's no one cares about Rip Claw.
Yeah.
To try and sell Rip Claw from the early 90s is like, it's not worth the effort. Losing a cancer battle. Not many good years left. Oh, that's bad news.
Yeah.
Sorry
I'd like
about
to
that.
hear that.
Well, it's not new. We kind of.
Well, it's my first time meeting him. I think so. Every day, one day closer to death. What is that? Pink Floyd.
Unless you're a time traveler.
Yes, time travel will solve all of our problems. I tell you.
Then you could be born tomorrow and dead yesterday.
I make so many time travel jokes in my web comic that sometimes I'm like, time travel and spaceships are like all my characters ever want. That's what they aspire to.
Time travelers still age. Well, yes.
Time travelers can go forward to a time where they've cured aging.
Yes. Or they can transfer their minds into an android body and live forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, because science fiction showed us how well that always goes.
Yes. All right.
Time to wrap it up for the week.
Does anyone else have anything else?
I don't think so. I think I showed off enough stuff for one evening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Next week, you're going to buy one comic.
I'll have to see what my email tells me what's coming. Well, I will have those 4 Chris Geruso covers. So there'll be extra stuff.
Yeah,
Was anything?
I'm going to have last week's books and this week's books, and then next week's books if I
Yep.
make it to the comic book shop next week. I should, because
Mhm.
the only thing that kept me busy was having 3 separate deadlines all piled up at the same time. So it was like all my client stuff were like needed this week. I'm still working on stuff as I'm talking to you guys. So it just happens to be one of those times with freelance that everything is everything's showing up to go, hey, where are those pages? So
Yep. And next week we could be back on my channel. We have to figure out how we want to do this. Every other week or 2 weeks on and 2 weeks off. We'll worry about that another time.
Yeah, don't worry.
okay.
We'll just do it in a discombobulated manner.
Yeah, we could do
Yeah,
that.
we'll figure it out.
Yesterday, all my troubles seemed so futuristic. Now I'm just heartbreak sadistic. Oh, I believe in yesterday. I'm a terrible singer, but I'll still try.
Yeah. Here's to finishing our books, reading and writing. Our days are finite and counting.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Once again,
And with
that's one of the reasons I'm giving away comics to my students is I look at a comic and say, will I ever read this again? And guess what? Again's getting a lot shorter than it used to be. If I'm not reading this in the next 20 years, there's plenty of comics I haven't read since the 80s, but I want to read.
Yes.
So any comic I look at like that, those, like I said, that Image anthology I just got in 2022, but I was like, here, I'll give this to a 20-year-old. You got plenty of years ahead of you to read it.
Well, you rock too, Kyle.
Yeah.
And thank you very much for stopping by. But so on that note, we will be ending this stream. Thanks to everyone who showed up to watch the cover of a comic that does not exist. We
And
now
if anybody
have
wants
balloons.
a copy of it, we'll get it to you. Why
Yeah.
not?
Just
not?
email Jared.
I'll print you out a copy.
All right.
Or we'll
Thank
give you
you.
the digital file. You can print it out.
We also thank Graphic Man for joining us. Please do subscribe to his channel and do subscribe to my channel, because since we don't know exactly in where we're going to do the next episode of the Cavern of Chaos, so make sure that you have all of our channels. Thank you very much for dropping by.
It's
and
getting
see you
even
later.
more chaotic.
Oh yeah.
Exactly.
And we are now ending the stream.